podcast stupid. Now it's podcast stupid. Now it's podcast stupid.
Happy Thursday, Funsters. Dan and Deb are back in full effect. We're here. We're doing it. Right? We're doing it, Deb? Are we doing it? You're on mute. Not a good start, Deb.
I'm a little rusty there. Anyway, I said, we're doing it. We're doing it again.
How's the back going? How are you feeling?
It's up and down. It's actually really in my leg, like I have sciatica. Oi, I have sciatica. Oy vey. So.
Are you verklempt?
I'm verklempt, Daniel. I'm so verklempt. But enough of
all over my ass and genitalia.
Ugh.
Oy
But
vey.
enough about that. They don't want to hear about that.
Dan looks naked without his mustache. Yeah, I'm going a little tighter with the facial hair, but still always got to have a little something, So yes, we are back. We are fully reunited, and it feels so good as this song goes.
It does.
All right, Deb, before we get started, okay. Well, first off, welcome, Nice Podcast Stupid. The alternative to your usual Dabbleverse nonsense. In fact, I'm here to declare tonight, we are not a Dabbleverse show. So if you are looking for a clip show, you're going to want to check in BYB. They're on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I think Clowntown might be going later tonight. You can check out them. We are not. You can check out who are those podcasts, the Shuley Show. Hey, KB or Chad. We're not the typical show. We are not a clip show. So if that's what you're looking for, no offense, come check in and out whenever you want. We're trying to do a little something different here. So just want to get that out of the way. You can email the show, nicepodcaststupid@gmail.com. You can text. I got to get a graphic up for our FU line. We're going to steal ideas from other radio shock jock programs. You can text us or call us 617-286-6979. That's 617-286-6979. See, I got that memorized. So you can text the show, you can call us, you can leave a voicemail, you can get drunk and leave a drunk voicemail. You can text us and tell us to go fuck ourselves. Whatever you want to do, you can do that. Also, you can send Deb prezzies. Deb, you got some prezzies this week.
You know what I did? Let me bring them out. From Saint Ranger, I got a nice bunch of goodies he sent me. So I got this sweet.
So Saint Ranger, is that what we call him, or is it ST Ranger? I don't even know. Saint Ranger?
Saint Ranger, that's what they've been calling him for years. So I got a really sweet Swiss Army knife. Oh, there we go.
Here, let's put that up. Wow.
It's got 36 attachments. And as you can see, I've been using the can opener / bottle opener. I also got a cool little flashlight. I got that.
Very nice. Is that like a pen light?
Yeah, like a pen light. And he sent me batteries to go with it.
Nice.
Okay.
Could also be used for other things, for other devices.
Hey now.
Rabbits and
that's what the flashlight's for. No. Got me this sweet box cutter for the next time I go on a plane. All right. And he got me a clip. Right? I always get the camera angles mixed up. I like a carabiner clip, so I can have that on my belt. Also
Max
got
Normal says he will give Deb a 1-hour massage to relieve her sciatica. Duracell, that guy is a real baller. No generic batteries for Deb.
These, you know what's? These are not even Duracell planes. These are Power Boost.
Power Boost.
So
Holy
they're the
shit.
really good ones.
He got you the good shit, didn't he?
Oh, this was great. And he got me the pocket reference, which has
Nice.
all chock full of info. Also, yep, there's more. Got me, this is keeping me company while I was laid up there. The World Almanac 2025. There's a lot of good facts in here. And then I have finally True Lime and True Lemon. So that's what that is. And you can use that in your water, or you can actually use it.
I was gonna say your margarita, maybe even.
Well,
right?
I put it on. I actually put it on. You could do it in your margarita, and I also put some on cheesecake if you want to have like a key lime or a key lemon flavor.
Okay, so ST Ranger, let's keep it moving along. So ST Ranger, great package. Thank you for the Prezi. There was a second Prezi that came in this week, Deb. From who did the second Prezi come from? This is we need like a drum roll on this one.
I got a 3D super chat. I'm not going to dox him, so I'll show the back. From none other than a friend of the show or friend of the Deb, Mr. Permaseal Finishing.
Thank you, Permaseal.
Thank you very much. So he wrote me a nice letter, and he sent me $50 and a $50 Lowe's gift card. So my super chat here, I will be taking tomorrow and getting nice plants.
What did he specifically say about the Prezi?
Oh, he says, sorry, Deb, I don't like Dan for only one reason. He reminds me of me 25 years ago. Ha ha. I will not hold it against you. The gift card is not for Dan.
So Permaseal giving gifts to Deb, but hands off. Dan does not get the gift. So congratulations. So should we still play your Prezi thing? Is that still valid, or
did you change the address?
I haven't changed the address yet.
You know what? Play it, because we will have next week a new address up, or maybe we'll tweet it out this week. I moved post office boxes closer to my house.
So get your Prezis in this weekend. Otherwise, we'll have a new Prezi address for Deb next week.
Get them if you want. Cards and letters are great. I don't necessarily ask for money or presents or anything like that.
Dick pic Polaroids are acceptable. No,
I don't know about that, but I will have a new address. But this one is good actually for till the 28th, and actually they'll still hold my mail for 6 months if something crosses. So I'll get it either way. Get
it in before the 28th. Here's how you get Deb a Prezi, and any Prezi you send in, we will talk about on the show. So. As long as it's, not going to get us thrown off YouTube terms of service. So here's how to get a Prezi to Debbie. Okay, well, we have a very special guest who's coming on, but before we bring him on, I just have one last thing.
Okay,
what?
I want to read some of his credits before you bring him out. Before you do
we'll bring on the guest here in about 2 minutes, but before we do that, I have to ask, what the fuck, Deb? What the fuck? What the fuck? What happened here? Walk us through this, please, quickly.
Oh, quickly, Chad.
Not quickly, but just give us where this picture was taken, what went down. Looks like you went to see Chad in Naples. Is that correct?
I did. I went to see Chad in Naples. He was doing a Cinco de Mayo show, and he did a great job. The crowd was kind of tight. The opener didn't really have a lot of confidence to warm up the crowd for him, but he brought the momentum. He had his orange sneakers on, so I was a little distracted by those bright Nikes, but he had his brand new kicks on, I guess, and I shouted out when he was talking about his sneakers, where are the red bottoms? Because he was talking about the. That's what Pat Dixon said. He goes, your expression says it all. But no, Chad's been nothing but nice to me the whole time, and he did give me a. Here's another show and tell. A Chad Zumach. Where am I? We're doing it. Rubber rubber bracelet. There we go. We're doing it.
Did you get the stickers?
I already have the stickers. He just brought T-shirts and stuff. I actually helped him hand out the T-shirts because he didn't wear his glasses, so he couldn't see the sizes. So I helped him out.
Were there any hotties there hitting on him after the show? And
I don't know. You know what? When I got out, there was a couple girls out there like talking up Chad for a few minutes. So, and he gave me the infamous "We're doing it." We're doing it shirt in gray because I wanted a gray one, and yeah, he only had one. So,
do you wear the bracelet at all times, Deb?
No, actually, I wore it.
You wear it when you're making whoopee?
I wear it when I'm using those batteries in that device, in that flashlight. Yeah.
Awesome.
But without further ado, our guest, you know him, you love him, and if you don't know him, you might have seen him on the Jellies on Adult Swim, Roast Battle Season 1, and a great show that got canceled too soon. I'm Dying Up Here on Showtime that was based on the Comedy Store scene in the 70s. Real Rob, that was with Rob Schneider on Netflix. That's a really good show. And he is
you may have seen him pushing Jeffrey Ross into a locker room at a local high school and giving him a wedgie.
Pushing him down the stairs, you know. But without further ado, play that intro, Dan, and let's get our...
Earl Skakel, welcome to Nice Podcast Stupid. Thanks for joining, sir.
You mentioned several things I would like to do to Jeff, but not. I haven't actually done
in Minecraft, right? Or in,
right. YouTube's terms of service.
Yes, it's an honor to be here, boy and girl.
Thank you.
We appreciate you joining, Earl. Really excited to have you. We've, Deb obviously read off some of your credentials and your background and stuff, but I think both of us have watched you over the years on and off. We've seen your streams, we've seen some of your act, and definitely, in the times I've seen you like on other podcasts and with other people, you just have a great vibe to you. So really appreciate you coming on, and we're excited to talk to you.
Yeah. My iPad is at 77%, so let's get on.
All right, let's get it going.
Deb, you want to start? Where would you like to start with Earl? We want to talk about the comedy in general. I know you got a bunch of stuff you want to talk about.
You know what? I'll start it off here. I want to know about Haystack Calhoun.
Well, this is going to be a quick segment because that was a little before my time.
Okay. Yeah, same here.
Not old, but he was a big boy. He was like the first gigantic wrestler. Like, I think he was 700 or 800 pounds.
Wow.
He was like a freak show. That's why he was so popular. He was just so much bigger than anyone you've ever seen. Like, I would say the average size of a wrestler in his era, Bruno Sammartino.
Right.
Ernie Ladd was a big guy, but he wasn't Haystacks Calhoun. The Guerreros,
right?
Chavo Guerrero, the OG. They were smaller guys. So he was really he wasn't a great wrestler. He couldn't move. For those of you, he was almost like a precursor to Giant Gonzalez, who was a legit 7'8".
Right.
But Giant Gonzalez was probably only about 300 pounds, which is not much if you're 7'8".
Right.
Haystacks Calhoun was a giant. Probably, almost as large as Andre the Giant, not quite, but in that realm. So he was, he was not a great wrestler, but we're talking about him in 2025. So that's pretty speaks to his impact on the business.
Right.
So we jumped into wrestling. So okay, so let me. I'm a big wrestling buff, so I'm sure this will be an area where I can hopefully hit a lot of things. But it's one I like to always throw out to people that are big wrestling fans. The first three are easy for me. The fourth one is always hard. Who would you put on your pro wrestling Mount Rushmore? Who are the four names that stick out to you of the most timeless wrestlers of all time?
I mean, I get this question a lot, and it's almost impossible to answer because it depends on what that Mount Rushmore is based on. Like, is it just the four most popular people? Like, if you go up to a non-wrestling fan and say, name me four wrestlers, if you go to who are the most popular heels, like,
yeah, you're right. There's a lot of it's almost an impossible question for me. I guess the way I do it is who are the ones that put the butts in the seats? What four put more butts in seats than any other guys?
I mean, I would say the four most known people. Like if you went to a Dodger game tonight and picked any fan in the arena or stadium and said, name me four wrestlers, they'd probably go Hulk Hogan, The Rock, and then, it gets a little wonky now because you got to go, okay, well, if they're from Cartersville, Georgia, they're going to say Ric Flair. But
Right.
if they're not, they'll probably go with Steve Austin and The Undertaker.
Okay, so,
Right.
so you give a little deference to the newer guys. I tend to I don't know if it's because of my age, and I think we're probably about the same age. I always go back to like the '80s guys, the '80s, early '90s guys. I always think Hogan, Andre the Giant, Macho Man, and then the fourth is always a tough one for me. Sometimes Flair, I guess, or it's hard. There's no perfect answer, right? I mean, it's
Yeah, I
all
mean,
about,
I didn't even mention Andre the Giant. And like, he's definitely should be on any top four list. But he was in a fair amount of films, Princess Bride, and it's also a regional thing. There was way more to wrestling than just the WWF at that time. You had the NWA. So if you grew up watching that, you're going to say, Ric Flair because he was in
Right.
there.
Right.
Nikita Koloff was a great heel. Dusty Rhodes, Magnum TA, and Sting if you're from the South.
Right.
That's he's pretty iconic. Roddy Piper, who I was friends with. He has to be he's probably the greatest heel of all time.
You knew Piper?
I was the co-host on his podcast
That's right.
about the last 6 months of his life. I'll show you this. This is he gave me this just a few days before he passed away. Actually, it's a.
Wow.
I came here to chew bubble gum and kick ass.
Yeah, there's.
That's nice. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
To Earl, you are the best. So. And I will never open this. I'm kind of curious as to what it tastes like, but
Bubblegum flavor, probably.
And then
what was it like working with Piper? What was he like behind the scenes?
Oh, he was the best. Just I think he was in his late 50s when he started showing up at the Comedy Store, and he would go on stage, and he wasn't like the funniest guy. He didn't have any jokes, obviously, but he would tell stories, and then he'd open it up to Q&A, and all the comics were too scared to ask a question, so I'd be the first guy to ask, and I'd ask him something ridiculous like, "Hey, Roddy, Earl Skakel from the Stamford Times, how big is Kamala's dick?" And he would have a story about Kamala's dick. Like, it was unbelievable. You could throw anything at him and he would have a story about it. So he was awesome.
He's a great performer. I mean, he just oozed charisma. Everything he's always entertaining. Obviously the movies we know, and he was on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia for an episode or two. That was really funny, like that appearance. And
he was great.
And, he's awesome.
I mean, he had his memorial at the Comedy Store, and no non-comic gets that privilege.
Right.
Wow.
So when he had his name on the marquee, like no non-comic gets their name on the marquee at the Comedy Store. So he was very impactful.
Let's talk a little bit about the Comedy Store. So you obviously are like tied very closely to the Comedy Store. What's it like over there? What's it like being kind of a marquee player at the Comedy Store? What's that like behind the scenes?
It's pretty neat. It's the number one club in the world. It's the NFL of comedy clubs. So if your name's on the wall, it's like getting your name on the Stanley Cup.
Right.
It's never removed. It's up there until the building goes down. And it's I have I don't know if I'd say it's the coveted spot, but it's the closing spot on Saturday nights, which originally was Sam Kinnison's spot.
Oh, wow.
Then it became, Sam Tripoli's spot.
Okay.
And then Brody's Stevens spot. And then up until recently, Brian Holtzman, who moved to Austin. Okay. And now I have it. So I basically close the show out. I do about an hour. And, it's a tough spot because you're going on at 12:30, 1 o'clock. The crowd's tired. They've heard every joke. They've heard every crowd work situation, every political take. So you have to be a very, very strong comic too. It's like going on last in a gangbang. It's a tough spot.
Getting that coveted last number in the gangbang. Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, someone has to do it.
Did you ever meet Kinnison, or was that before you got started? I know would he die in the early 90s or mid 90s?
Yeah, it was before my time. I've met Dice.
I believe the 90s, yeah.
Yeah, I think he passed away in the 90s. So I think I loosely started comedy around 98, 99. So I've met Dice a lot. He's a great guy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool.
But no Kinnison.
Did you meet Rodney Dangerfield?
I met him actually in the early 90s. I used to work at a gym. If you've ever seen and few people have, the John Travolta movie Perfect.
Oh, yes.
No, I missed that one.
That doesn't mean I'm gay, but it was a very well-known movie, a little bit of a flop, but yes.
That's all right.
Very famous Travolta movie.
Yeah, it's basically a movie. The plot line is he's a Rolling Stone reporter, and he's covering the meat market era of the gyms in LA, and I worked at that gym.
Wow!
In the movie, and Rodney would come in there. It was by the Santa Monica airport, so it's a weird area, but like a lot of celebrities came into this gym for whatever reason. And he came in one day, and he was like digging through the trash, and I was like, "Hey man, why didn't you do Caddyshack 2?" He's like, "Because I didn't want to." Okay. And that's my only Rodney story.
Now, at the Comedy Store, how many nights a week do you go up?
It's different every week. It depends, what big names are in town. Like,
right.
So if all the big name comics are on the road or filming movies or TV shows, I get more spots. And, I usually get 1 to 2 spots a week. So you take what you get there. And there's a new booker there now. It's been
that's what that's a segue. I had seen you talking about that on one of the late night streams. What was going on with that with the booker?
I'm out of the loop on that one. I mean, I was friends with and still am friends with Emily, the old booker,
right,
and friends with Rose, the new booker. So there hasn't been a lot of change for me because like I said, I don't think anyone wants to get past at the Comedy Store to go on last. So it's a spot that I'm probably the best one suited for.
Right.
Because it's tough. You can't put a young comic in that spot. It's just, you need someone who knows how to work the room. And, you hear dishes clanking. You hear noises in the hallway. You hear comics in the back talking about who they're gonna fuck that night. So
probably people wasted in the crowd, right? Probably making a lot of noise.
you get heckled. I mean,
Yeah.
you need to be a really well-rounded comic. So my position's pretty valuable to the club, I guess, because I'm one of the few who could do that spot. But
Right.
I'll keep calling in until they stop booking me.
How has the
Now,
sport changed in the last like 10, 20 years since you kind of started there? Is it
I
different, or what's the vibe now compared to then?
I mean, I would say now it's a little more based on your social media, uh,
Mm.
comedy in general, not just the Comedy Store. I mean, comedy clubs want to put butts in seats. So if you have 700 followers on Instagram and someone else has a couple 100,000, you can take a guess at who they're going to book.
right.
And I get that. It makes sense. But, I think the thing with a lot of these comics who have a lot of social media followers is, like at the Comedy Store specifically, most of their followers aren't in LA. They're all over the world. They're in the Midwest, New York. So those 300,000 Instagram followers are probably never going to come to the store because they're not here. So
Are there a lot of shitty guys that are getting spots because of their following that are not quite cut out for it? Are you seeing that, or are people deserving that they're getting up there?
I mean, at the Comedy Store still has a high standard. I mean, I don't have a tremendous amount of followers. I mean, I think I have 12,000 or so on Instagram and X. So that's kind of a weird amount. It's not small, but it certainly isn't big. I mean, I think Matt Rife has 9.1 million. So
Now, what do you think of him? What do you think of Matt Rife?
I don't mind him, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I knew him when he was a nobody per se, and he worked hard. There was a time where he couldn't get booked in LA because he wasn't a big name, and he just released video after video after video after. I mean, I'm talking he was relentless, and one video popped, and then the rest is history. So he works hard.
Power of social media, really. He's an example of that, I'd say.
I don't mind people who make it,
Yeah.
or whatever you want to call it, who work hard. Like,
Right.
I release a comedy short every day for, I think, the last 4 months. And I have someone who edits them and, puts the captions and all that. But
Right.
I'm trying to do the same thing he did. So
Yeah.
I can't hate on him.
What about
Now,
Brendan Schaub? You ever fraternize with him? Are you friends with him in behind the scenes? And what do you think of his career path?
I'll say this: he's always been nice to me the few times I've seen him. I brought him up one time at the Improv. It was on a Rogan show, and it's what they call in the business tag team. So there's no host. Hey, my name's Earl Skakel. The next comic is, I bring the next comic up, and
Right.
it's Brendan Schaub. The first special was pretty bad, to be honest. And that's not, I'm sure his fans will, where's your special? I could have 100 specials. My opinion on his special would still be the same.
Right.
I just don't think he was ready.
Right.
It's not to say you have to do comedy for 100 years to have a special, but he probably at that time maybe had a good 10 minutes, and that's being generous. There's no way
Rogan guys get an unfair bump. Like, do you think because they're buddies with Rogan that they get a little bit to the front of the line on maybe get ahead of some other folks?
I mean, in Schaub's case, absolutely, but you get on TV, you get a bump, and you go on Kill Tony, you get a bump. I got a bump from Roast Battle. But I think that the difference is, like, when I did Roast Battle on TV, I had 15 years of comedy behind me. So, I was ready for the bump, if you will. I don't think Schaub, it's funny, I knew his manager at the time, and his manager is a big, big manager, but he's not really in the stand-up world. And he asked me, well, what would you do with him? Because he knew I'd done stand-up forever.
Oh, wow.
And I said, well, whatever you do, don't give him a special because he's not ready.
Right.
And I meant that with no
Right.
Yeah.
shade at all towards
Right.
Shab. I said, get him a show where it's Brendan Schaub and friends. And you could I gave him 2 different versions. You could have 3 comics doing 6 minutes each. It's a half-hour show, 6 minutes of commercials. So it's really 24 minutes. He would literally have to be on camera for maybe 4 minutes doing jokes. He could probably survive that. And
That's actually great advice.
Yeah.
You should have gone with that.
Is.
I mean, yeah.
And I even gave him 2 different versions you could do. You either have unknown comics or a comic of my fame level, which is, I think I know the name, but not really. You have say me, Sarah Tiana, and I don't know, Sam Tripoli. Or you can have 3 of his famous friends, Rogan, Brian Callen, and D'Elia, before all the shit went down.
Right.
And they're doing new material, and they went with the special, and he just had a deer in the headlights look the whole special,
Right.
please laugh.
Yeah.
And he didn't put in the work, the equivalent. Sorry about the long answer, but
No, that's okay.
it'd be like
You gotta work that material over a long period of time, right? Until
years.
until it feels natural and it just rolls right off, right?
I mean, it's like if I went into the UFC offices and said, I'd like to fight on the next card.
Right.
Do you have any experience? Yeah, I took boxing lessons from the Weaver triplets a couple of years ago, which I did. Mike Weaver, he was a little bit before Tyson's era. He was a great fighter. He had these 3 twin brothers, Floyd, Lloyd, and Troy. I would say Schaub at the point of that special had maybe been doing it 2 years, 3 years, but it really wasn't 2 or 3 years. To give you an example, my first 3 years in comedy, maybe even longer, I was going up 7 nights a week, 3 times a night, sometimes 5 times a night.
Right.
I was an animal. So that 3 years of comedy was probably the equivalent of 7 or 8 years of experience. Whereas Brendan was only going up on Rogan shows, and he wasn't going to open mics or,
Right.
So he just, I think the results were pretty predictable.
Now,
who do you think
is wait, let me get this one in, Dan. Let me get a couple in.
Sure.
All right. Who do you think's the most overrated comic out there?
I mean, it depends what you mean by overrated. I know the popular comics get a lot of shit. Some say Carrot Top.
Right.
He's hacky, but he's actually a really good writer.
He is.
It's prop comedy, 100%.
Okay.
But if you go to a Carrot Top show, you're like, that's a great joke.
Yeah.
He had a tennis racket with him that had dreadlocks on it. He's like,
right.
Look, everyone, the Venus Williams tennis racket, and that's funny.
Yeah.
Just the visual. So overrated. I mean, the problem is I don't think any comic is overrated because it's all subjective.
Subjective, right.
People might say, well, Matt Rife, 9.1 million followers, he can't be that funny. But, when you have 9.1 million followers, you're funny. That's not just marketing.
Right.
Same thing with Bert. People were like, Bert.
That's a name that's what I was going to ask you, what you thought of Bert, because that's the name that always comes up when they say, on Reddit or wherever, they'll say, who's the most overrated comic? And overwhelmingly it comes up with Bert.
Well, I think it's just because he's so popular.
Right. Right.
You don't fill arenas if you're not funny.
Right.
Yeah.
You just can't fool that many people. I could get 100 people in the belly room and fool them, just through marketing, a clever Instagram picture or whatever. You don't fool 20,000 people. So I like Bert. I think he's funny to his fan base. So.
Yeah. His fan base love him. I
You
mean,
look better with your shirt off, though, Earl. I'll give you the thumbs up on that one.
Well, I was doing that long before Bert was. So,
Well, that's
and
subjective too. You know, some people like a little more,
Something like the bear look?
plush, like a bear. Yeah, the plush look. Now, I want to know who is somebody that not a lot of people know about that's really phenomenal, like an up and comer, or even somebody that's been kicking around a while and really hasn't gotten that bump.
me,
Who's
to be honest with you. I'm not kidding. Like,
okay?
I should be more known than I am, but it's just
Yeah,
I'm in the worst category you can be in. Middle-aged white guy. Like you can't pick a worse middle-aged white guy.
right,
You
right.
can't pick a worse category to be in.
Yeah.
How does an extended member of the Kennedy family end up in stand-up comedy, Earl?
I mean, all my friends back in the mid 90s, they all worked at the big agencies, ICM, William Morris, 3 Arts, or what became 3 Arts. I
Right.
mean, the biggest of the big. And they were all like, Earl, get into comedy. You're the funniest guy we know. We'll help you.
Yeah.
Then I got into comedy and they all quit the business to get into real estate. So, I really was at their urging, and then I just stuck with it,
Right.
But if I couldn't name myself as who should be bigger, let me see, George Perez, but he's pretty big.
Okay.
Like he's been on Rogan, and
Right.
I'm trying to think. I mean, there's so many. I have comedy clubs in New York call me, hey, this person's in town. Are they funny? Like, I know there's hundreds of, it's a very unfair business. There should be a lot of my friends who should be more famous, whatever that is. But, it's a new era of social media and viral videos. And, that's almost as tough as answering the Mount Rushmore question.
Right. Right.
Of wrestling.
Now, we talked about this a little bit before we went on, but I wanted to know, do you feel Austin comedy scene is siphoning away from LA, the LA scene?
I mean, I've done the Mothership, I don't know, about 7 or 8 months ago. We did lose some comics to Austin, Joe,
Right.
obviously, Hinchcliffe, and couple Comedy Store people, but I wasn't that impressed with the comics there. I mean, they're funny,
Right.
for sure, but the curious thing to me is I don't get all these comics who moved from LA to Austin to get in at the Mothership. It's like Adam Eget's the booker there. He was the booker at the Comedy Store. So if he didn't book you at the Comedy Store, he's not going to book you at the Mothership. So I don't understand, the line, Rogan's ass is like a nightclub and it's at capacity. So it's a little late to move there now thinking I'm going to be the next Hinchcliffe.
Right.
So you mentioned Tony. I know we were talking before about Tony and Kill Tony. What's your thought about kind of how the trajectory with Tony and that show and what that's kind of done for comedy? Do you like it? Do you not like it? What's kind of your feedback on that whole experiment?
I mean, I was on a lot of early Kill Tonys, and I remember I was on one in the Belly Room with Mike Costa, who I love, and there was under 40 people in the room. I'm talking panelists, comics, servers.
Right.
And I remember halfway through leaning over to Costa going, this show sucks. But it's amazing the trajectory. I don't even think Tony saw it getting into in terms of, is it good for comedy? I don't know. I mean, it's given a lot of these kids the idea that they're headliners, and they're just not. But they're young. I mean, no one should have an hour of TV or headlining quality comedy 2 years in.
Right.
Unless you're a rarity. But these kids, you go and Kill Tony, you definitely get a following from it if you're one of the popular people on the show, but you go on there with a lot of band-aids. You've got a band, you've got Tony,
right,
You've got Red Band. You've got a soundboard with about 10,000 sound effects. You've got 2 or 3 famous panelists or friends of Tony's. So, and you're only being asked to do 1 minute of comedy, a light Q&A. So if you bomb, you've got a lot of safety nets.
Right. And the audience is already, it's an experience. A lot of tourists come. It's a big deal. So they're already hyped for whatever, just
But
for
the
the
problem
experience.
is, yeah, 100%. But, then you get a following. And like we said I know a comedy club owner said, Earl, I won't book anyone unless they have 100,000 followers minimum. So, you become one of their stars of Kill Tony.
Right.
You get booked, say, at the Comedy Zone in Jacksonville, which I guess you would call a B-level club. But they pack it because there's nothing to do in Jacksonville other than, drinking and partying. So it's a very rowdy club, especially like the late shows. And, you have 100,000 followers from Kill Tony, you're going to get booked to headline the weekend. But, you go on that stage, that first show on Friday night, you don't have Tony there. You don't have the band. You don't have everything we talked about.
Yeah, a lot different. Yeah.
That hour it could seem like 10 hours because that crowd's paid, it's a lot of money to go to a comedy club. It's 2-drink minimum, parking, food. That crowd wants you to be fucking funny. And if you aren't, they turn on you real fast. And you still have 4 more shows that weekend to do.
Right.
So, to me, I think of Kill Tony as the new Gong Show.
Right.
If you're old enough to remember that.
Yeah. Show. Yeah, I remember that. Chuck Barris.
Yeah, but, if you remember the Gong Show, it was billed as a talent show.
Right.
But really, the contestants were I don't think they were in on the joke that you guys are the joke. This is not a talent show. And I think a lot of the Kill Tony comics don't realize you guys are the joke. Like,
right.
That's what reality TV nowadays. I mean, it's been
American Idol, things like that is the same thing.
They just want the attention, and it's like, okay, people are laughing at you, right? You're the butt of the joke, but people will do it for fame and notoriety, and maybe it boosts your career. And sometimes people take off, but if you don't, it's a little embarrassing.
No, Earl.
Oh yeah, I mean, I get why people go on Kill Tony. I mean, you literally can wake up, or the next week you have 20,000 followers. But it's you can fool a comedy club once, they're not going to have you back a second time. And in general, the results on the Kill Tony comic road gigs, where it's just them doing comedy, have not been favorable.
Right. And that's like American Idol, the same thing. They've gone on the road and gone on tour, and it's it flops, and the names are forgotten fairly quick.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, because I used to date the manager from Motorhead, and she was very involved in that show.
Okay.
And so it's the same thing almost. Some of the winners of American Idol, you win that show, you got to put out an album that month. There's no fucking around. They would hire Desmond Child, who's a preeminent songwriter. If you love 80s, butt rock, he wrote most of Bon Jovi's songs, Kiss's songs, Aerosmith's Comeback, Ricky Martin, blah blah blah, and most of the winners don't have 4 songs.
Right.
So they got to put out an album. So what do you think songs 5 through 12 are going to be? Like, not good.
No, a lot of filler. Yeah,
a lot of filler, and then you got to do the concert. I mean, it's a very. I mean, I saw this firsthand with some of the winners. Like, okay, you're headlining Staples Center tonight. Good luck. So it's be careful what you ask for. You may get it.
Right, and you're not prepared for that.
You hit on something. I'm sorry. Go on.
Oh no, I mean, you're not prepared for it because you think about the 15 minutes of fame, but then you don't think about, oh, what if I get the 16th minute? I'm going to be holding the bag. And, listen, I like going back to Kill Tony. I'm sure there's some funny comics on it. I don't watch the show, to be completely honest.
Right.
I don't watch comedy because I want to do it.
Right.
But you know, the reviews of the first episode were not very good. I can't say it was because I didn't watch it, but
Right.
those are those kids' shots. So you got your Netflix shot. I'm sure they got road gigs offered to them the next day, and some will deliver, and most won't, probably.
Right.
I've heard some comedians say that they don't like to watch too many other people go because they feel like they'll subconsciously steal other bits, or it'll kind of absorb it in, and then they end up starting to do it. Have you ever had anyone take some of your material and repackage it without your knowledge or without your permission, or is that something you think that comes up where you watch another thing and it just subconsciously you start to kind of almost not necessarily on purpose, but start to kind of craft a joke that you might have heard somewhere else?
Well, no one steals my material because, like, I do a lot of jokes about the 80s and pro wrestling and talk about the concerts I go to. So it's almost done by me on purpose, where no one's going to joke about being friends with the singer from Rat,
Right.
which I am.
I saw the picture today on Twitter. That was awesome. Like, so did you just see him recently?
I see him at, he plays the whiskey every few months here, and we've been friends for a long time. So I almost joke about stuff that nobody else does. So when if someone ever were to talk about the band Rat, people would be like, "That's Earl's shtick."
Right.
So
I don't want to tell you what concert I skipped this past weekend because I had stuff going on at my house and my wife wouldn't let me go. But AC/DC, I fucking missed it in Foxborough.
You messed up, bro, because I'm not even a super AC/DC fan. I just like their hits. And I saw them at the Rose Bowl maybe 3 weeks ago, and it was, I tell you what, Brian Johnson, the singer, he's about 80.
Oh gosh.
He's still wailing.
Wow.
And I was sitting in the pit, so basically the front row, and I noticed that after every song he would go to the side of the stage and they'd have either a massage guy or someone doing something to him after every song.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was a great effort. And then Angus Young, he's got to be mid-70s. He's running around. So it was a good, I got a little misty-eyed toward the middle of the show going, this is probably my last time I'm ever going to get to see them.
Wow.
Yeah.
But, that you should have gone. It was
I know. I fucked up.
The visual, though, was really funny because you got Angus mid-70s, Brian Johnson, I think someone said 80.
Gosh, wow.
The drummer is probably in his mid-60s. And now the rhythm guitar player is Angus Young's nephew. He looks like 100. And the bass player is my age, and he looks like a teenager in this band. Like,
wow. Compared to them, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because he's like muscle bound, and I think he's the regular bass player in Jane's Addiction, maybe.
Okay.
So he comes with credentials. It was a fun show. Like, I think there's still a few shows left on the tour. If anyone's out there and you're on the fence about AC/DC, go see them. It's, even if you don't like them, it's a fun show.
Yeah.
I'm a big Metallica guy. I'm almost thinking about. I saw them last year when they were doing like the back-to-backs. Now they fucking sound great. They are still, in fact, they sound better now than they probably sounded like 5 or 6 years ago. I don't know if it was COVID. Lars started practicing drumming more or something, but they sound really good. I don't know if you're into them at all.
I saw them at SoFi Stadium. I went. They were playing Friday, Sunday. I went to the Friday show because my friend Frankie Sidoris is the rhythm guitar player in Wolfgang Van Halen's band.
Oh, cool.
So it was kind of neat to see Frankie like in this 100,000 people stadium. But my only two, I'm probably one of the few it's not that I don't like Metallica. I'm just not like a super fan. I only really like Whiskey in a Jar and Enter Sandman. So unfortunately, they played those two songs on Sunday night. So I didn't get.
Oh shit.
But it was a fun. It's just weird to see your friend in front of 80,000 people.
So I know you
fan.
mentioned.
You have a fan. I'm just gonna bring this up. Sorry, Dan. You have a fan in the super chat in the chats here.
I love it.
Our friend Ari Jane. You may know her. Yeah. She says you crank up her cheeky side, and she's got some other messages here. She wanted to know what your OnlyFans was, and that's going to lead me into a question that she's actually helping me segue into. I've heard through the grapevine that you have a substantial package.
I mean, you got to. Have you ever seen the movie American Psycho?
Yes.
You remember the business card scene where they're comparing the business cards and they're all trying to one up each other?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mine's on pale nimbus with braised lettering. And at the Comedy Store a few years ago, people would do that with their dick pics.
Okay.
You'd literally try and outdo your and it was a thing. We'd all show each other our dick pics. So I have one dick pic. I only have it because I was going through a rough breakup, and my friend, I think he was trying to make me feel better, but it wasn't translating. He asked me what my ex-girlfriend's lower region looked like, and I'm like, oh, you want to see what Gail's vagina looks like?
Here you go.
I could see
a really big clitoris.
So I took a pic, and this is probably 10 years ago. I was jacked, and I was like, I had almost a semi bodybuilder's look. So I take the picture, send it to him. Now, what I didn't realize is he was at the Improv that night, which is a comedy club in LA. Right. And he was sitting.
Everybody saw it that night. He passed the phone around to everybody.
Well, luckily he did, because the next person who saw the picture was the booker of the Improv, and she was a female. And let's just say I got a spot the next night at the Improv.
I bet you did. I bet you did get a spot. You son of a bitch.
So,
now, I wanted to know, do you date other comics, or you tend to shy away from that? What's dating like, being a working comic that goes up late a few nights a week? What are the challenges of that?
I pretty much only date comics just because that's all I'm around. I'm not around a 56-year-old lawyer or a 45-year-old fitness trainer. I'm literally only around comics, and they're significantly younger than me.
Do we know any of your exes? Would they be names that would be familiar enough that our audience would know some of them?
I mean, let me see. The roast battle girl you probably would know, but I don't really talk about her a lot, just because she said some stuff about me that wasn't true. So I don't want to give her the publicity. Trust me, she would take it. And then probably my ex-fiance, because she more or less co-hosted my podcast, for a year or so. You might know her, but we don't talk anymore either. So, I think it's crazy.
You didn't date like Whitney Cummings or Chelsea Handler or any of those broads?
I mean, I've dated one famous person. She would kill me she wasn't a comic. She would kill me if I said her name. So
can you give a hint?
I can't, because if I did, you would guess.
Of course we would.
I can't even say. She's not a comic. She is in another field altogether. But I think the thing.
Pro wrestler.
Oh, I wish I could say, yeah, I dated Trish Stratus. We met at a Bowling for Soup concert, and it was true love. But my problem is I'm probably the oldest working comic at the store, so. And I'm into all leather pants and the custom leather jacket and whatnot. So I think I attract a lot of damaged women.
Right.
Well,
And
typically, female comedians have some damage somewhere. There's something usually a little,
and it has two
loose
men
screw,
too.
right?
But the male comics too, they're just as
Oh,
fucked up.
absolutely. Yeah.
But I think initially it works out great for me because, this guy pays for everything. He gets my door. He doesn't kick me out as soon as he squirts.
He listens to Taylor Swift with me,
Yeah,
the couch.
He makes breakfast.
I mean, I order breakfast. I don't make it.
Yeah.
And then a few months after the nice treatment, it's like, oh, he's kind of boring. Like, he doesn't hit me. He doesn't, I don't know, verbally abuse me. I think I'm going to go back to Ricky. Like, it's insane, but I've gone through that a lot.
Yeah. Now, did you can you tell me about Mitzi, what she was like?
Unfortunately, I only met Mitzi once, and she was not probably of sound mind and body at that time.
Okay.
So I was, I almost didn't want to talk to her because I just was toward the end, and I'd rather have no memory than have that be my memory. So I'm probably.
Does he still hang around the store? Pauly Shore?
Well, Pauly hits the road a lot. He does a one-man show that's really good. I mean, he has an amazing history in comedy. He's way more than just the Weasel. He's had a lot of triumph and tragedy in his life. The ex-girlfriend who was the porn
star, right?
Yeah.
I think Savannah was her name, and so that's a great story.
Right.
Like, it's a sad story, but like the way he tells it's like, but Pauly's always been very good to me. I mean, I really, I first started going to the Comedy Store in about 2000, and I saw Brody Stevens make a comic cry at an open mic, and I can't do a good Brody impression, but Brody was hosting the open mic. This kid from La Jolla was bombing. And I mean, this is the dark era of the store, like where there's no one there. I mean, potluck at the Comedy Store at that time, you think Kill Tony or Roast Battle was mean, had nothing on this era. And so the kid gets off stage and he knew he had bombed. And Brody was like, "Where are you from?" And the kid kind of meekly said, "La Jolla." And Brody was like, "Well, that drive just got a lot longer."
That's great.
And I thought, this guy's a fucking dick. And then we became good friends, but I wasn't ready for the store. So then I started going back up there around 2010. And then I got passed at the very end of 2014.
Yeah.
How hard was it when you lost Brody? How did that, how did you hear about that? What was kind of your reaction when that all happened?
Well, it's kind of funny. The same thing happened with Piper, where Brody was both of them were supposed to go on my podcast the day they died.
Wow.
So I'm known as like the podcast Grim Reaper.
Right.
Hey, Jeff Ross.
Be careful, Deb.
Jeff, you want to do my podcast? And it's kind of funny. So I thought Brody, because I had talked to him literally hours before he did what he did. I saw no signs. I'm probably my best asset as a human is I'm an incredible energy reader. Like, I know if something bad is going to happen to someone. I did not get that indication with Brody at all. So I think he was supposed to come over around noon or something. So it's 2:00, 3:00. So at about 4:00, I text them. I left them a voicemail. I'm like, "Listen, I won't use the language, but if you're not going to show up, just fucking call. Have some class, you idiot."
Right.
And then I started hearing about what happened. But there is a funny part of this. So about a year later, I'm opening up for Dr. Ken at some Indian casino in San Diego. And it's a great gig. I said, "Hey, Dr. Ken, I'll drive. It's a 2-hour drive." He's like, "No, let's just take a jet." I'm like, "To San Diego?" Like, what? And we literally got on a private jet where we weren't in the air for maybe more than 20 minutes. And Brody's sister came to the show with some girlfriends. And So afterwards, as soon as I saw her, I start crying. She starts crying.
Right.
We hadn't really even met, but we knew who each other were. And she says, Earl, this will probably make you feel better, but I heard your last message to Brody.
That's great.
Aw.
Yeah, I mean, it was his memorial was really sad. And, I sat at a table with Rob Riggle, and, Rob's this big, tough Marine. Like people,
Right.
Oh yeah, he's a tough guy.
well, people don't really know that side of him because he doesn't really talk about it that much. But
Wasn't he involved in like 9/11 somehow? Wasn't he like a first
No,
responder or
no,
something?
that's Steve Renazizi. He
No,
lied
think-
and.
yeah,
Rob Riggle. What? Like,
Oh, really?
I think he
Oh,
was
really?
like in like fire department or something, or he had some connection to it. I thought.
he was in like the logistics for something around that time. But he's a badass. Like he doesn't talk about it a lot. And I'm sitting with my fiance at the time because she was his assistant, and I just look over and Rob's crying. I mean, because they would have people get up and tell funny stories, and I tell you, it's the only time Jeff Ross has ever made me laugh. So they had three of Brody's friends, and they get up there and they're telling all these sad stories about Brody. And then Jeff goes on. See, I give credit. And
Right.
it's like, wow, with all these sad stories, no wonder Brody killed himself.
That's a good one.
I give him that,
Yeah.
We have a history that's probably not best to talk about on here for many reasons.
How did Jeff Ross get in? So he kind of just sort of just wedged himself in and kind of just put himself in that role that like the grand poobah of roasting thing, right? How did he angle himself into that?
I mean, I can't tell you how he did it in terms of like the Comedy Central roast, but I can tell you, with Roast Battle anyway, and I suspect it's probably the same way with the Comedy Central roast. Roast Battle started one night in the belly room. There's a point to this long story. Two comics wanted to fight. Brian Moses was like, well, you guys can't fight, but you can roast each other. He might have said slap each other, which is a term in the hood for roasting. And and this was a horrible open mic on Tuesdays at the store. Nobody was in the room except for me, Moses, the two comics who were fighting, and maybe two or three other, hanger-on types. And then the next week, no one wanted to do stand-up. They wanted to roast. And then the next week, a couple more people in the room. And it was like that shampoo commercial. You tell two people, they tell two people. And then within months, it was packed. And no one did stand-up. It was all roast. And, it was like that for about a year and a half. It was the hottest show in LA. Jeff had gone up there a few times. And no one really got the show that you don't need celebrities. You just need two people who know each other, and you let them rip. And I think Jeff said to someone I know, no offense, but who's going to want to watch Earl and a bunch of his unknown comedy friends roast each other? But, and I get it to a degree, like everything.
He was kind of trying to big time you a little bit. He's like, Earl's and his nobody friends. Like I'm Jeff Ross. Everybody knows who I am.
Basically, and I didn't even know him at the time. So, but the show was almost undeniable at that point. Week by week, it was getting more crowded. And I know it was passed on by every network, in some cases twice, for probably that same reason of, who the hell are these people? We need to understand the jokes, but you really don't. It was just, such an amazing, to coin a wrestling phrase, it was like an ECW energy in there, like, because the belly room is very low ceilings, it's kind of a small room, so the energy had nowhere to go but stay in the room.
Do people write out their roast stuff, or is it supposed to be like off the cuff, or is there does everybody have their own style? Is it I almost kind of equate it to like you hear like rappers freestyling, right? Like Eminem going up against somebody freestyling, and I'm sure they write a little bit of it, but it's supposed to be off the cuff to some extent. But is a roast battle off the cuff, do you think, or is it are these guys writing all the jokes ahead of time?
I mean, George Perez is probably about the only one who goes up there with no notes, no nothing. And he could roast either one of you right now. And he's just got that gift. I prepared a little bit, but it was loosely prepared, like some people, like have a script almost where they're going to do this joke here, that joke there. I was more of a counter puncher. Like I would always force the people to go first, and then I would hit them with a rebuttal.
Right.
I mean,
So if I let off and I just said, Earl, you've been doing this for a very long time, and it's just not going to happen, Earl. You got a lot going for you. You're a handsome guy. You got a big dong, but if it was going to happen, it would have happened by now. So I don't know, man. Why are you doing this? It might be time to hang up the Spurs. How would you come back at me on that?
Well, if that was at the Comedy Store, now I had an unfair advantage at the Comedy Store because I was one of the few paid regulars who participated in Roast Battle. Because most paid regulars, not all, but most did not like Roast Battle. They thought it was low-hanging fruit, bottom of the barrel humor. It turns out they were right. But so if that happened on stage at the Comedy Store, you're not a paid regular. I would say something to the effect of, "Hey, when you leave here crying tonight, you can tap my name on the front of the building, bitch."
Nice.
Well, it's not like the greatest comeback.
Yeah, but it's a generic enough where you could use that for just about anybody, even if you didn't know the person, right?
It's also true. Like basically, what I'm saying to the audience about you is, you're not passed up here. You never will be, and I might be a has-been up here, but
you never will be.
I get paid to be here. You don't.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's just truth.
Yes.
And that's how I did it. I would attack people's comedy.
Is there anything off limits in a roast battle? Is there any place you won't go when you're roasting somebody?
If it's true, it's on the table. Like my very first battle on television, and this is where we get into why I have issues with some people on the show, was every battle I had on television that you saw, and if you go on, someone told me it's on Paramount Plus or Peacock, or I guess you could go on Comedy Central. Every person I battled, it was, well, they're kind of boring on TV, but Earl will make it funny, but this person will kill Earl. Well, that didn't quite work out, did it? Comedy Central. So like the first person I battled was Jesse Joyce, and he's a brilliant comic, a far better writer than me, but his best friend was Greg Giraldo.
Okay. Yeah.
So I walked up to Jesse before the battle, and I didn't know Jesse, so it really made no sense for me and him to battle. But let's just say I had a mole at Comedy Central who's told me, "Oh, well, Jesse's just going to read his jokes. They want you to make it fun, come out half naked, and then they think Jesse's going to kill you."
Right.
So I was very motivated for that battle. Like, okay, you think this guy's the man? Let's see what happens. And so I'm an honorable battler. I asked him before the battle, without telling him, I said, "Are there any jokes that are off topic for you?" And he, to his credit, he's like, "No, hit me with whatever you got." And he's asked me the same. My parents died 2 months apart. I certainly don't want to hear about that. But, hey, I signed up for the show. So because I knew he was going to have a joke about my parents.
Yeah.
So I said, "No, we're good." And then, that's when if you saw that particular battle, it was a Mike Tyson knockout. I was just prepared. I forced him to go first. And if you ever watch that battle, and I get no money if anyone watches that show, so it's not like I'm trying to.
Paramount Plus, Comedy Central, Peacock.
I would guess you could go on ComedyCentral.com, and they probably have it archived, or someone said season 1, I think, is on Peacock or Paramount. I would guess Paramount Plus because they're the same company. And his first joke is so long. He's a wordsmith. Like he writes these eloquent, just 5-part jokes. But I knew on TV roast battle was going to be better suited for short form, and
Right.
so his first joke was so long that Joe Rogan was like, "Bro, that's like 3 jokes. You got to wrap it up." And I'm just sitting there, I'm just being quiet. And even Jimmy Kimmel said it was Kimmel, Rogan, and Dane Cook were the judges.
Okay.
Oh
And
wow.
I'm just sitting there going, I had the best line in the chamber, and because I knew Jesse's first joke was going to be very long, and then him and Joe kind of start arguing. I'm just be quiet, and then Joe's like, "Okay, Earl, it's your turn finally," and I knew I'd already had the battle won because I just did. I'm like, "Wow, Jesse, that joke lasted longer than your first marriage."
That's great.
I rarely kill. Usually I do good as a comic. That night I killed because I was just so fired up by, they thought this guy was going to kill me. And, it was really, that battle should have never happened because he's an employee of the network. So,
Right.
I didn't know until, there's a long way to go for this story, but my ex, Rob Riggle's assistant, she wrote and produced that show he was on, Holy Moly, the golf show. It's like Wipeout with miniature golf.
Okay.
And I said to her, "Hey, why don't you get me on the show? I'd probably win it because I was a good putter at golf." And she's like, "You probably would." And then they would say it was unfair because you date one of the writers of the show and they rigged it. So, my season of roast battle there's a lot of, let's just say there was a lot of conflicts of interest that, I had to deal with that nobody else had to.
Hey, Earl, Ethel wants to know, do you agree Giving Yourself Away is an underrated great power ballad?
Well, I certainly hope that's you in the picture, Ethel, but it is a great power ballad, which is weird, Ethel, because Stephen Pearcy does not have what you would say a ballady voice, but Desmond Child wrote the song. Speaking of Desmond Child, he's like the go-to guy when you want to hit.
Right.
He's got this very formulaic, it's almost like cut and paste songwriting style where he could write us a hit. So yes, I do agree with you there.
We've got a lot of females in
here tonight. Yeah.
We don't have the hugest crowd, but it's like 90% women. I think that's you, Earl. I think they're here for you, buddy.
Hey, listen, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Get in line, ladies.
Did you take Tawny Kitaen?
No, I mean this to males too, but if you're ever in the LA area, I'll take care of you guys at the Comedy Store.
Very nice.
What was
Awesome.
that about, Tawny?
You didn't date Tawny Kitaen, did you?
We almost did. Ironically enough, she had a weird.
You like that, Deb? How did I pull that out of my bag of tricks? I knew there was a connection.
She had a weird attraction to me because I was like the only guy not trying to use her for her looks or her body.
Right.
I mean, even in her 50s, she was really pretty.
Oh yeah, crazy, but
yeah,
gorgeous.
She would come into the Comedy Store, and it was like a music video. Like I'd be on stage in the main room, and she'd walk in the back and walk through the front, and
the White Snake comes on the music. It's like, go again on my own.
Yeah, I mean, it was like everything but the music was like she would walk in, and she just had a presence. It's beautiful. The hair was like a horse's mane. And she probably had a little bit of work, Botox or whatever, but like still very beautiful. And she'd just sit down, and the energy of the room was like, who is this girl? Like, so we became very good friends. I miss her a lot. She was probably the best story I have is, so she came on to do my podcast. She came over, and I'm like, fuck, I beat off to this girl, and now she's in my condo. And she's like, Earl, you can ask me any question. I'll answer everyone but one particular subject. And I'm like, I was trying to get her to say the name. I'm like, hey, you don't want any OJ, do you? Are you thirsty?
Oh, yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah.
Because, if you believe the urban legends, she was basically OJ's, I guess, first fling, or probably not his first, but Like he would fly her out and put her on the, like if the family was in Hawaii and they were on the 7th floor, she'd be on the 8th floor.
Right.
So it was a great podcast. And she gets up to leave, and right here, almost right where this Vince Neil poster is, actually right where that poster is right there.
Okay.
I had a beautiful framed picture of her first love, who was the rhythm guitar player in Rat named Robin Crosby.
That was where I was. It's funny enough because I watched like a Rat documentary or something, or
Right.
maybe it was a Tawny Katane thing, and they were talking about that was her first love was the Rat guy, and they you know, I think they went to high school together, right, or something in San Diego.
Yeah. Jesus, who calls on a landline? I mean, this is unbelievable, right here.
Come on, man.
Dude, I'm on a podcast. I'll call you back. I'm never gonna call on that landline.
That's funny.
So they were high school lovers. You know, they moved up here when Rat got big, and she was an actress, and so she gets up to leave, and she looks up and sees the picture, and she starts crying. And you know, here's a woman who's done it all, like several times.
Oh yeah.
And I took the picture off the wall and I said, "You can have it." And I'll send you guys the picture. It's a great picture of just her and I holding the picture. And,
Oh, nice.
We became friends ever since. And I always sensed that she had a little bit of a crush on me.
That wasn't Zuma calling you, was it, Earl?
No, it was my friend. It's funny. You asked me when we started. By the way, in about 15 minutes, I'm going to have to move to the kitchen to charge my iPad, but it won't.
Yeah, we can wrap up in the next 15 minutes.
No.
We don't have to keep you.
We'll go till we drop.
Okay.
You talked about comics that should be bigger. It's the guy who just called me. His name's Jason Galern. Very funny comic. We're about the same age, and luck just did not follow him like he did. I think it was either a Tonight Show spot or a Kimmel spot where he killed. But the guests, I think it was like Mariah Carey or something, they went long with her. So his segment
got cut.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, man.
So it's just like, he's probably the funniest person I know. It's kind of funny. He messaged me, and I'm sure he wanted to say something dirty. That's why I had to be so brief with him. So yeah, that's Tawny was awesome. Like, I miss her a lot. Like, she was just she had a presence about her. And I mean this in a complimentary way. Like, when she walked into the room, any room, it was like Darth Vader. Like, she just took over the room. Like, and even with younger comics who did not know who she was, because they were probably born when those videos were playing. You just knew she was somebody. Like, she's just beautiful, and that smile, like she was just awesome.
Were there any other famous people that walked in that just like you just couldn't even fanboyed out? You know, you couldn't believe that they were in watching you or in the store when you were there. Anybody that jump out that was just shocking to see them, that they were just such a big name?
I mean, at the Comedy Store, I mean, I'm going on one night in the main room, and I've got eagle vision with these glasses. Like, that's why I was such a good putter. Like, I could literally see individual blades of grass. So my vision, as bad as it is without the glasses, when I put these on, it's like I'm a superhero. And one night I'm doing jokes, and I just see this guy. I'm like, Jesus, that's the singer from Twisted Sister.
Nice.
Okay.
Dee Snider.
Yeah, he and then I look at his girl, and I'm putting all this together as I'm doing jokes to 400 people. His wife, and I never put this together, was the girl in the Hot Love video, which Twisted Sister. Their last album was an album called Love Is for Suckers. And it really wasn't a Twisted Sister album. It was basically a Dee Snider solo album. But Atlantic Records said, "We don't care who was on the album. You're going to call it Twisted Sister."
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and they did one video called Hot Love, which is, the typical 80s,
right,
hot girl in the video. And that was his wife. And so we afterwards great thing about the Comedy Store is the parking lot's like the VIP tent. Everyone hangs there after the show, and
Yeah.
so Dee Snider and his wife come walking up to me, and Dee thought I was going to say something to him, but I looked at his wife and said, "Hey, it's an honor to meet the girl from the Hot Love video," and
Yeah.
and then, but probably the most starstruck I've ever been was not at the Comedy Store. My friend used to manage the Ultimate Warrior.
Oh, nice.
Oh man.
And he was doing this. I live right off of Sunset, same street as the Viper Room, and about 2 stores east of the Viper Room, there was like a punk rock store. They would sell like Misfits, bootlegs, and Motorhead shirts and whatnot. And apparently, the Ultimate Warrior's manager managed this store as well. So he did an autograph signing there, and there's about 300 people in line. Now, my friend had warned me, you don't want to meet the Warrior. He's kind of a dick. He's
a little aloof, I've heard. People don't really like him that much personally.
He's surly. He's cantankerous. He's kind of bitter and angry and all that. I said, F it. I want to meet him. So I was literally the last guy in line. And I'm praying to God that nobody sees me in this line. Because, pro wrestling at that time, it was in a dip era. So of course, I saw like 6 people going, "Hey, what are you doing in line here, Earl?" I'm like, "Oh, I just didn't want a Motorhead shirt." And I was the last guy in line, so I thought he's going to be in a bad mood. And I'm going to see if I can do this. He couldn't have been any nicer is the point of what I'm trying to say. And this is, let me know if you guys can see this.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. Very nice.
Awesome.
It says, "Earl, always believe, Ultimate Warrior."
That's fucking sick. That's great.
And he was like, "Do you have any T-shirts or do you want anything, Earl?" And I couldn't look at him. It was like literally talking to Superman, because
totally.
He's in full gear, the makeup, the
tassels and stuff.
The tassels, the boots, the duster jacket, and he could have.
Because of a certain age, like Ultimate Warrior was like because he wasn't the best wrestler in the world, but his persona, his character would just elevated him to like the stratosphere.
Yeah, he was like Bon Jovi on steroids. And the fact that we're still talking about him, like who in 2025 is talking about, say, Don Morocco? No offense to Don Morocco, who was like a great heel.
Bob Backlund, or like, talking about these guys.
We're not really talking about Hercules Hernandez. Some of the most talked about wrestlers are probably the ones who were not great wrestlers. I mean, I think people forget it's fake. Like, it's not really wrestling. Now, and maybe.
By the way, I loved your WrestleMania joke, the John Cena joke. I was checking out some of it. So you really were sitting in like the John Cena Make-A-Wish section,
the Riri section, because the guy, most of my jokes are true. So I was at the Comedy Store one night. It's the first night of WrestleMania. I didn't go because it's about a $700-800 check. I'm not missing that. I'm an AEW guy, so I'm not really
okay.
Yeah.
So that's another podcast, but there was a bunch of WWE guys in the crowd, and the executive came back there. I actually showed them my dick pic because my friend was back there with them, and they were like, "Hey, you got to see Earl's picture. Earl, the picture." And I'm like, "I don't think so, dude. I'm not going to show my dick pic to Jeremy Borash, who's like a big executive in WWE." And then Jeremy looks at me and goes, "Let's see it," not knowing what it was. I'm like, they're just trying to, a couple of years ago, Jeremy, I auditioned to be a wrestler, and I know I'm a little small, but I really thought this picture was going to get me a meeting with Triple H. And he's like, "Let me see the picture. I can make the meeting happen." And so I'm like, "Okay, here you go." I'm not going to show you guys, but what do you think of the picture, Jeremy? And he's like, "Oh my God."
That's great.
And then he asked me if I wanted to go to WrestleMania and backstage and all that. And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "How many tickets do you want?" I'm like, "Just one, bro. No one I know likes wrestling." And then he sat me in the John Cena section, which, whether you like John Cena or not, he does do a lot of amazing
Oh
charity.
yeah, he's
Oh,
done
yeah,
more
he's
Make a
I
Wish
like
than
him.
anybody. I think
Yeah.
he's got a record for it or something. He's like
Even
an angel.
and I know from friends of mine, even with his new heel character, like he drops that and goes to the children's hospital when nobody
Oh,
knows.
Yeah.
So
I
was,
saw him at McDonald's one time in Boston, right near Fenway Park. And it was right before he really he was like on the precipice of getting famous. And he was
Right.
there with like 3 of his buddies. It was almost like the show Entourage, right? He had like
right.
Turtle and all his other buddies. And he was, on the phone talking to somebody. I don't even think he was eating the McDonald's. I think his buddies were. And he was doing an interview. It might have been before WrestleMania or some event. And I was like, wow, that's what, how funny is it to be like, it's like seeing Matt Damon on steroids, right? John Cena, this big Hulk of a man. And I went over, I just walked by and I was like, hey, just, I'm a big fan. Just, tell John I said hi, good luck. And his buddy, the turtle guy, was like, oh no, stick around. John will talk to you. John's cool. And I, I almost felt bad. I'm here I am, like I was in my mid-20s or whatever, just out of college. I'm like, I'm a fan, but I don't want to, I don't want to bother John. I'll let John do his thing. But yeah, supposedly, I mean, the guy is, you can tell he's like the real deal. He's like a saint when it comes to that stuff.
It was a great life. It's like, it's probably, his body probably feels awful, but, so I got to go into I don't know what you would call this section, the special section. And,
the St. Jude section, I think you called it.
More or less. It really is that. I'm the only adult in the section. I thought this is kind of weird. And then the guy didn't tell me, hey, you're going to be in the John Cena section. I'm like, oh, I'm putting it together slowly. I mean, it's such a mind-boggling experience. At SoFi Stadium, it looked like a movie set. The entrances were straight out of a science fiction movie. That guy Omos, when he walked down he's like 7'4", 500 pounds. You're just visually you're overstimulated, and then so you can imagine what the kids are like that I'm sitting with.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're going nuts.
I mean, the one kid was like bothering me the whole time, and I'm like, so it gets time.
You think he's gonna win, right? Is that what he asked you?
Yeah, it gets time for the main event: Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. And I'm an AEW guy, so I'm rooting for Cody Rhodes. But I knew he was going to get fucked over because that's how WWE treats anyone who goes up against them.
Right.
And Cody Rhodes had started AEW, so I knew they were going to stick to him that night.
Yeah,
and they did. They did the same to Sting, and so this kid's like tugging on my shirt the whole man. And I'm like, finally I got out what he said. Who do you think's gonna win? I'm like, whoever the writers want, kid. And then I was escorted out. I didn't even get to see the final match.
So you're an AEW guy. Who are your favorites over in AEW? Who do you like over there?
I love Kenny Omega. Who's like just an amazing actual wrestler. Will Ospreay. And this guy, it's funny how you can really change a person's character, but his name is Kazuchika Okada, and the
Japanese, obviously the big Japanese guy that they brought over.
Yeah, he in Japan was like a monster heel. Like he was like RoboCop. His almost personality was he had no personality, and he made it work. He was just a stone cold assassin. And then in AEW, they've kind of turned him into a humor character.
Yeah, he's kind of a goofball. Like he's awkward sometimes.
I wish he'd go back to the
more like the Terminator kind of character.
Yeah, but who else do
you like the Cucamonga kids? Do you like the
Young Bucks? Yeah, I mean, they get a lot of shit because of the power they wield, because they are executives in the company. But when they put their mind to it, like, they can still go. I mean, they had a match last night on Dynamite that was really awesome. They're a struggling company because you listen, you go up against the WWE, you're going up against even though Tony Khan, the president of AEW, is a billionaire, you're going up against the WWE, and it's just, it's very tough. And
Tony's
Tony
made
Khan,
some questionable booking decisions. Wouldn't you agree? Like I think I would have done some things differently than he's done.
I mean, I've tried to get in as a writer because
You'd be fucking great at that. Oh my God, that would be awesome.
well, because I get what the fans want, but I'm also a realistic fan. And MVP, I love. MVP is.
Oh yeah, he's awesome. Yeah,
he's come to the Comedy Store a few times.
Oh cool. Yeah, he's a cool cat. That guy.
He almost has like that Tawny Katane, Darth Vader. Like when he walked up the first time I met him, he's just in a t-shirt and shorts. No, there's no cane, there's no suit. And he just has a presence about him where people were looking at him going, who the fuck is this guy? And then the next night he brought RJ City, who's a very, very funny, I guess he's an on-air talent, you'd say.
Okay.
With my favorite female wrestler, Harley Cameron.
Oh, yeah, I love her.
She's great and not really she's kind of new to wrestling. I think she has under 100 matches. So, and she's so nice. I told her, and I told MVP the same thing. Please don't be nice to me because it'll ruin the image of your heel character. So now every time I see MVP and Harley on camera being like the bad guy, I can't believe it. So, but yeah, it's the Comedy Store is so well regarded that people from all walks of life. I just got a few of the LA Kings in to tomorrow night's show. Like, of course,
cool.
they've got the time to be on it.
I was gonna say they're on break right now.
But, yeah, they're on break for the next 6 months. So, but
who you like in the Stanley Cup playoffs this year?
I mean, I'm such a King fan that once they're out, I don't really care. But I am friends with Alex Iafallo, who was a King.
Okay.
He's now in the Winnipeg Jets, so I guess I'm kind of rooting for Winnipeg, but it won't mean a lot if they win. I'd be happy for Alex, but I just want to see good hockey. Like Edmonton and Vegas are playing right about now, so I know that's going to be a good game. So
I like the Oilers. They're
good.
The team I would take.
Just McDavid is like, wow. I've seen every hockey player in their prime. Gretzky, Messier, Yager, Lemieux, Yzerman. They're all great players, but McDavid's probably the best player I've ever seen live because he's like watching a video game where he has a superpower button that he just flies over people who are fast. So that's
the thing that blew me away. I went to so I'm from Boston, and I went to the Bruins used to play at it's almost like a high school rink, like the really practice. It was like one of these little small things where you could, and of course they would have the puck bunnies would all show up in the tight jeans and wait for the guys after the thing. But you could go and watch practice, and it was back when they had like Milan Lucic and some of these other, the big bad kind of Bruins of like 15 years ago, and like Lucic, like he was at the glass, and I kind of like walked right over to it, and the guy's a friggin' Hulk of a man.
Yes.
But he's fast as shit too. Like the way these guys skate and how big they are and how tough they are, it's almost like boggles your mind how athletic they are.
All right, we're switching to the kitchen stream. Sorry.
Nice.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of forget they're on skates and doing what they do and McDavid, he's it's not only that he's faster than everyone, but he can do what he does at that speed. It literally is like watching a video game where you hit a boost button and he just goes by everyone. And the other team knows, like the Kings, obviously their game plan is we got to stop him first. And they couldn't. So.
I know you mentioned you used to date the manager of Motorhead. Is that what you were saying before? So I assume you've met Lemmy on a few occasions.
I've given Lemmy rides to the dentist. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he was. His dental.
He was always at the Rainbow. Is that where he used to hang out? Was that the played the video poker or whatever? The whiskey.
He literally bought a condo that was 1 block below the Rainbow, so he could just go there and walk home or walk
Nice.
up there. He was awesome. Like, I remember he had dental problems because of maybe some of the things he ingested, and so his bridge would never stick, which is not good for a singer. So my girlfriend at the time was like, well, do you like your dentist? I'm like, yeah, he's great. So Lemmy and I lived about a block from each other. And so I took him to my dentist at about 9 a.m. one day for the consult. And I knew my dentist was going to love me because Lemmy was a gold mine for any dentist.
Oh, yeah. You're going to make a lot of money off this guy.
Oh, I mean, it's like hitting the Powerball if you get Lemmy as a client, as your dental patient. But my dentist was really honest, so I knew he wasn't going to rip him off. So I pick him up about 9 a.m. and Lemmy asked me to stop off at Turner's Liquor. I'm like, Jesus, 9 a.m. Oh, he must want some orange juice or something. And he walks, he goes in, buys whatever he buys, comes out with two. I've never had a drink in my life. He comes out with maybe 2 Foster's lagers. They look like miniature kegs.
Big boys.
Like,
yeah.
Take the edge off.
Wider than this. You know, like,
oh yeah, the oil can ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big fat ones. Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So he opens up both of them. He hands me one, and I'm like, Lemmy, I've never had a drink in my life. I don't drink. He's like, you should. And so we Google Earth this if anyone's. I know how some of the internet fans get into this. We're in West Hollywood on Sunset and Doheny. I had to drive him to Wilshire and Comstock. It's about a 15-minute drive. He had finished both beers.
Wow.
But that was nothing to him. 2 beers in the morning. It was like a glass of water.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's like a it's drinking a Poland Springs for Lemmy. That's.
And then I picked him up about maybe 6 p.m. He was there all day because they had a tour. Coming up in Europe or something, and the whole office smelled like Lemmy. Like, I love Lemmy, and but he maybe didn't smell the greatest, but he had blown out his nasal passages, so he had no idea, and he didn't give a shit either.
Yeah,
he really didn't care. So, and I was the usher at his funeral.
Oh
wow!
Because me and my ex, we had broken up. I forget when Lemmy died, maybe 2014, 2015, something in that era. So I had not talked to my ex in probably 7 years, and she called me up. Said, hey, Earl,
we need a big guy to.
Because it was my ex and Wendy Dio were in charge of the funeral.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to guess Wendy said, hey, we're going to need someone to sit all these people, but who knows who they are. I mean, it was a who's who of metal. So my ex calls me up and says, hey, I know it's weird, but we're cool. And, can you usher Lemmy's funeral? It would mean a lot to me and my business partner and Wendy Dio. Yeah, no problem.
So that must have been like a who's who of rock royalty at that funeral.
Yeah, it was Dave Grohl, Triple H, the wrestler.
Oh wow!
Rob Halford from Judas Priest.
Nice.
Gene Simmons, Eric Singer, the drummer from Kiss. Bob Kulick, whose brother Bruce Kulick. If you like metal, it was like.
Oh yeah.
And so probably one of the coolest things is that I think Lemmy's buried at Forest Lawn, which is a big.
That's a famous cemetery. Yeah.
And Lemmy is buried right across from Dio. So they face, let me see, it's a good thing I have all these empty shakers. So this is Dio's gravesite. Lemmy's is over here. So they're staring at each other. And Dio's headstone it's got to be the biggest headstone in the history of headstones. It looks like a stage. And
he's Ronnie James Dio. He's bigger than life. He's got to have a fucking huge one.
Yeah, he's got the devil horn. They had to get special permission to put the devil horns.
Right.
And Lemmy's is just, smaller, presentation.
Right.
So after the funeral, we all go up there to say goodbye to Lemmy. It was just a very limited group of Motorhead's management, me, and there's a couple people behind me, but we're all crying and stuff. And someone puts their hand on my shoulder and kind of starts hugging me, and it was Dave Grohl.
Oh wow!
Like we had never met, and this Dave idolized Lemmy. So, and then the funny thing is, about 2 or 3 months later, the bass player from Dio died, Jimmy Bain, and I think Wendy Dio said to my ex, "Hey, can you get Earl back here? He was really good."
We got another rock funeral we need Earl for.
So I got in trouble at that one because they buried him in this really cool jacket. There's an open casket, and so I'm like lifting his head up to see who made the jacket because I wanted to buy it. And my ex is like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, man."
Any other crazy stories with any of these rock people that you ever went out partied with, or anything jump out that's interesting?
Let me see. I've been to a cool gangbang. That was cool.
Okay, tell us about that. Tell us more.
I'm gonna have to change.
You go with Brian Callen?
No, I don't talk to
he's into that.
I don't talk to Callen. He's a fucking creep.
He's a piece of shit, right?
Horrible. But it's the way.
What about Chris D'Elia? You like him?
I was friends with him until all the stuff went down, and
his reputation took a hit pretty bad.
I mean, we haven't talked in a few years, just because I think the last time we did, I'm like, bro, it's tough.
I can't be seen with you.
I mean, more or less, it was just like, and he, was sales pitching me, he was set up and whatnot. I'm like, hey man, I'll always appreciate that you were like, cordial to me, but I just can't, bro. If I'm going to go hard on some of the people I go hard on, I'd look completely hypocritical if I'm, palling around with you. And we were never we were good comedy friends.
Yeah.
But, I think he understood it, it's like one accuser, you can maybe go, okay, they're lying or they're a gold digger,
Right.
But, when there's, 10, 15, you just like, okay, they're all not lying. But
you ever pal around with Whitney Cummings? Do you know her?
I started with her at the LA
wow.
mic scene. We used to do what did we do? It was a room. It's not there anymore, but it was called the Sportsman's Lodge, and it was on the corner of Laurel Canyon and Ventura Boulevard. And the show was in the patio. Sportsman's Lodge was like a hotel for like Shriner Club types. And the comedy show was in the patio on Friday and Saturday nights. And we would talk, we'd talk comedy, and then she'd always want to go to Jerry's Deli and write. And I'd be like, in my head, I'm like, I'm going to go get some pussy. You go write this show. I didn't tell her that. I think I said I was tired, and I probably should have gone to Jerry's Deli and written with her.
Speaking of getting pussy, so tell us. Go back to the gangbang. I started.
Yeah.
So my friends call me up one night at 2 or 3 in the morning. Hey, get over here. We've been having sex with this girl for 9 hours. I'm like, thanks for calling me in the 9th hour.
Thanks for tagging me in after you nailed every hole already.
I really would have loved this call in the first 10 minutes. So I go over there, of course, and my friend, I don't know why I'm giving you the end. He's no longer with us, so it's not like I'm doxing him. He lived on the corner of Doheny and Beverly. Now, it's all permit parking there. So I was so horned up with the stories they were telling me.
I'll take whatever ticket I'm getting, whatever. I don't give a fucking care.
I literally parked my car in the middle of Doheny and in the median.
I am my balls are blowing up right now. I got to get into this thing.
I mean, I had an eruption in my pants. And so I literally ran out of my car. I left the engine on, didn't turn the lights off because I didn't know what I was walking into. And I go up there, and I'll never forget. I opened the door, and it looked like that opening scene in Saving Private Ryan. Just bodies everywhere. just looked like a bomb blew up in a Ross. It just
Was it just this one chick that people were going
yeah,
at?
just one girl. She looks up at me and goes, "Who the hell are you?" And my buddy's like, "Oh, he's in Guns N' Roses. He's got more money than all of us." So, I was invited to partake, and I said to the guy who's no longer with us, I said, "Hey, JG, I'm not going in there dry after 9 hours of you maniacs. You got something for me?"
Yeah, I'm gonna wrap that rascal after
Yeah.
what these guys have been up to.
He's just like, "Look in the kitchen, bro." And I'm like, it's a strange place to look for condoms.
Would you go for the saran wrap?
So I'm like Schwarzenegger in Terminator when he's taking his eye out and all the calculations are going on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like scanning every. So finally, I see that was probably about this size. I see an unopened Ritz cracker can, and I'm like looking at. And I'm like, that probably could go in her at this point. So
You just need a sheath for your penis. What it doesn't matter.
I was not picky. I knew my window of opportunity was closing with this girl, or
Right.
so I thought. So I crack open the can. It's like a Pringles can, basically.
Yeah.
I pull out the unopened bag of crackers, and I'm like, I got a pretty big dick. This will probably fit. So I very carefully, with surgeon-like precision, open the bag, dump all the crackers out, and I take her into my buddy's office. And I'll never forget, there were all these Under Siege 2 scripts because he was in that business. I don't know what his association was with Seagal, but and I did my thing. And squirted about on 4 scripts to Under Siege 2. And
were you spit roasting her with the other guy or just you?
No, just me.
Just you, okay.
So the night's coming to an end, and I knew my friends at that time. They were animals, obviously. I felt bad for this girl, so I said, "Come on, honey, I'll give you a ride home, wherever you live. Hopefully, my car is still on Doheny." And she couldn't find her clothes. I mean, literally, you talk about a needle in a haystack. There was like, you needed Billy from the Indian from Predator to navigate you out of this. So she puts on her underwear and a jacket. That's all she could find. So we go out in the middle of Doheny. My car's still there. I get her door. Like, that's how nice I am. I'm getting a girl's door.
Gentleman after a gangbang. That's
just fuck.
That's rare. Yeah.
So I sit down and I notice on her jacket right here it said Shelby Motors. And I'm a big car buff, I'm like,
oh sure.
I'm like, oh my God, Carroll Shelby, who was the inventor basically of
that's my grandfather.
The Shelby Mustang.
Right. The
Shelby Cobra. And she's like, do I know him? That's my husband. And I'm like,
whoa.
Huh? Well, it doesn't end there. This is a great story to end the show on.
Okay.
Yes, this is we're gonna end on this.
Yeah.
This is perfect.
I'm never gonna top this story. And you know what? I can go back to the okay, so I'm like, where do you live? On the corner of Beverly Glen and Wilshire. So I take her there, and it's the Donald Sterling Hotel, the ex-Clipper.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think it was called Sterling Plaza.
Okay.
So I pull up in the driveway, and she looks at me and goes, "Do you want to come up?" Like, her sexual appetite was.
Want to go again?
So the next day, I drop her off. The next day, I go to the gym where I worked at the time, and I tell my 2 buddies about it. I'm like, "Oh my God, the night I had, you wouldn't believe it. It's just 9 guys, 9 hours. It was unbelievable." And my 2 friends are like, "We got to meet this girl." And I'll change the names. I'll say Steroid Rob. He was this typical lunkhead from a early 90s gym. He's like, "I'll tell her I play on the Raiders." I'm like, "You don't really have to." And then my buddy, Little Black Albert, he's like, "I'll tell her I produced Michael Jackson's album." I'm like, "You don't have to do that either." I'll call her and I'll make the intro. So I call her up. Hey, I got these two guys from the gym. They really want to meet you. So that night, I take Rob and Albert to the Sterling Plaza Hotel. I drop them off. They call me 2 or 3 days later. I'm like, hey, how was it? She's wild, right? They're like, we're still here. Like,
Wow.
no, that's not the end. There's one more part.
Okay.
Then my other buddy, we'll call him Fast Eddie. He starts, this story starts spreading amongst my circle of friends. And
Everybody can get with the Shelby Cobra chick. This chick is crazy.
Honey, it's just word spread. Guys are pigs.
Oh, yeah.
There's, and I can't, I was one of them at that time. So I'm no angel. So Fast Eddie starts to hear about it. He's like, dude, can you introduce me to her? I'll take her to dinner. I'm like, you don't really have to. Well, I'll take her to at least play pool. I'm like, you don't have to do that either. So I take Fast Eddie over there. It's like at some point I'd become this girl's pimp. And this was all done gratis. So it's not like I was, making a cut. 0 + 0 = 0. And so she calls me the next day, and I could tell she was kind of pissed. And I'm like, oh man, he wasn't rude to you. He's like, no, he was great. He took me to dinner, took me to play pool. And I could tell she was almost turned off. And I'm like, so yeah.
He's such a gentleman.
Yeah, he was a total gentleman. I'm like, she had sex with him, right? Because I know he's a big hammer. And she says to me over the phone, Earl, I'm not fucking any guy that can't beat me in pool.
Awesome.
And,
That's good. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Now
that's great.
Yeah, I told that story on stage, but the crowd's got to be really hot because it's kind of a long-winded story. And plus, the girls in the theater or the comedy store or wherever, they're not really digging the gangbang story.
Yeah, the gangbang angle is a tough one for the ladies in the crowd.
But for a late show, it usually works.
Yeah, that's a good closer. So Earl, so I know you've got the roast battle. You've got Is it Jellies? Is that what it's called? The cartoon, the Tyler the Creator thing?
Yeah, it's called The Jellies. It's on Adult Swim, HBO Max, the Cartoon Network, and I believe you can get some episodes on YouTube. I mean, what isn't on YouTube?
Right.
And it never got canceled. It was, Tyler the Creator is so popular and I guess for lack of a better word, famous that he's a kid still. I don't think he's even 30. He gets bored, so we just stopped doing it. But
yeah,
I was the only white guy on the show, so I played the dad, and Tyler was as bad as my experience was on Roast Battle with the behind the scenes bullshit.
Right.
Tyler was the complete opposite. It was incredibly nice. Please, thank you. Even if he didn't like something I did, hey, that was great, Earl, but can you do it this way? Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
So it was show me, there are good people in this business.
That's
awesome.
You've got a Patreon too, right?
Yeah, but I only have 3 people on it, so I don't really.
I posted the link in the chat, and
if I were to ask you guys to promote something for me, it would just be sub to my YouTube page.
Okay. Yeah, check out Earl on YouTube. Very easy to find. I find all you got to do is search for Earl Skakel. You're gonna find it.
Yep.
There aren't that many Earl Skakels out there. You'll find them. Subscribe on Twitter, X, which is Earl Skakel as well.
I mean, that's the beauty of me is it's really hard. It's really easy to find me. I'm literally at Earl Skakel everywhere, and I mean, you guys know on YouTube, it's really to bump into the algorithm. It's all about your subscribers. Just and anyone who wants to come to the Comedy Store, you can just DM me on Instagram, and I'll give you the VIP tour, show you the back. It's a funny thing. They built a back bar for Rogan and his friends, and then he moved to Austin.
Wow.
Of course.
I know, it's just the way it works. But yeah, anytime you guys.
Yeah, you are awesome, Earl.
Yeah, Earl, this was great. Thank you so much for coming on. And definitely check out Earl, Twitter, YouTube. Check out the shows, and we'll see you guys later.
We'd love to have you on again in the future.
Oh, I would love to. And before I go, let me show you when I did the roast of Ric Flair.
Oh, nice.
This is the coolest thing I've ever been. I've made a fair amount of money or whatever, and the puss and all that. But when I did the roast of Ric Flair, the guy was in charge, gave me the check first, and then he's like, "We're giving this to all of the people on the dais." And this is if my house is ever on fire, knock on wood, given what we went through a couple months ago out here, I'm taking one thing. It's not the watches, the leather pants, the iPad, the wrestling paraphernalia. It's model 1 of 1, the Earl Skakel wrestling doll.
Wow.
Nice.
That's awesome.
That's
I love that.
Now, fans were paying like $500 for these, but it was one of the perks of being on the roast of Ric Flair. And, that
Very
was
cool.
probably
That's neat.
And that is on, I believe, Fight TV. That's FITE.TV.
What line did you give Flair? How did you roast him? Anything you remember off the top of your head?
I did have. I mean, probably some of my best jokes were. Now we were told one thing: don't make any reference to, because I believe Tori Wilson had a lawsuit going against. Going against Vince McMahon. But when you tell a bunch of roast comics not to touch it,
they're going to touch it.
We're like little kids. So probably my best joke was Ric Flair has made millions and millions of dollars from Vince McMahon, and he didn't even have to fuck him. That's got to hurt.
That's awesome.
And then the one joke I regret not telling, because I was I'm not gonna lie, I was really nervous up there. Like, I'm on a stage with Ric Flair,
fucking Ric Flair,
like, Vicky Guerrero, and we're all talking. Vicky was awesome. Vicky sent me this. I cried when I did her podcast. She sent me an autographed.
Oh, wow.
Oh, nice.
And we're all talking about how big her pussy is, and
I wouldn't fuck you with Vicky Guerrero's dick.
Basically. And we're talking about, DDP's, face. And DDP's awesome. Like, I'm like, hey, DDP, it's time to take off the mask. It's not Halloween. Oh, my bad. It's just face. Shit like that. And I felt really bad for Ty Domi, the hockey player. Who was I'm a huge hockey guy,
Sure.
And me and Ty before the roast, we were just talking random stuff, and he asked me about my parents. His mom was sick, and he said, "Are your parents still alive?" And I'm like, "No, they passed away 2 months apart in '98." And he started like welling up, and he gave me like a big hug. And this is a guy who fought Bob.
I was gonna say Ty Domi is like one of the biggest badasses in like hockey history. So like he's welling up. That's crazy.
You couldn't hurt Ty Domi because his head was as big as mine. And so Ty was going on before me in the roast. And unlike me, Ty was going off the teleprompter. And unfortunately for Ty, the teleprompter froze.
Oh, no.
Oh, man.
So it's just bad luck. And then I went
you could have totally picked on that. You could have like, at least I'm not.
Oh, I did. I
started like Ty Domi,
I felt so bad. I mean, like the first thing I said was, "Hey, let's give it up for Ty. He tried." And this is the guy who could fucking kill me.
Oh yeah. Oh shit. Absolutely.
But I became friends with Brian Knobs, who, if you watch wrestling, is one of the Nasty Boys.
Oh yeah. Yep.
He was pretty messed up, and he's got some health issues now. But I was so nervous up there, I forgot this joke. But I was like, "Hey, where's Brian Knobs, man? Give it up for him. Brian Knobs looks great. He can finally say he has a better body than Lex Luger."
Who's crippled, basically.
Yeah. So now I think I have enough. I'm sorry to keep going back and forth there. here's what we'll end on. All right,
Okay.
this is our podcast. You guys tell me when. To
Yeah,
end it.
we got nowhere to go. We'll talk as long as you want.
So Friday night was the Ric Flair roast. Saturday night there's like a Comic Con of wrestlers. It's unbelievable. Every big wrestler you could think of was there, and we're all getting autographs and pictures and whatnot. So I get to Lex Luger's booth, and it's pretty jarring, his condition. Like when you see it, if you remember what he looked like, and
yeah, because he was that crazy physique when he was at his peak.
So his manager comes out to me and goes, "Hey, we really liked you yesterday on the roast. Do you want to meet him?" I'm like, yeah. How much for a wrestling doll? He's like, oh, whatever you do, don't call it a doll. Call it an action figure. And so, yeah, I'll pay for an autograph. All the money goes to his health, his bills and shit. Yeah. I'm on the clock because there's only 2% left. So I get up there and here's this doll. I'm like, "Hey, Mr. Luger, I'm a big fan."
Action figure.
Yeah. Can I get just a picture with you, and I'll buy your action figure? He's like, "Do you want me to autograph it?" I'm like, No. I don't want to put you through any trouble. Shit, I got to go back here, man. It's at 1%. This is. Sorry, fuck. Hold on. This is such a great story to tell. I've got to get this off. Okay. So he's like, "Do you want me to autograph it?" I'm like, no, because to autograph it, you gotta take it out, and it's just a lot for a guy in Lex Luger's condition. So he's like, no, let me autograph it for you. So he takes it out, and he's grabbing the pen like this, not like how you would write it like that, right, but sure. like a fucking hammer. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be a jacked autograph. It's going to look like it was written in Swahili. And if you can look at this autograph, it's
perfect.
Wow.
It literally looks like he laser cut it.
He's got a better autograph than 95% of people that aren't holding the pen like a crippled person. I mean, he takes pride in his name.
Now DDP is working with him. To get him better, and I think DDP is going to start working with Knobs, because Knobs is very he's not in great shape. I mean, it's a brutal. There's no union for wrestlers. So
there's no retirement home. There's no union. There's none of that.
It's a rough game.
It's kind of effed up how they're treated.
Yeah, it is.
That's why I think comics and wrestlers have a bond, because it is a very similar lifestyle outside of the working out for most comics. It's just, I'm sure they're already looking for the new Matt Rife. I mean, they're already trying to replace this guy, and he just got his pop.
Yeah.
And I'm sure right now they're already looking at all right, how do we get rid of Kill Tony, and what's the next show?
Right.
So, it's a tough business, but I got my Lex Luger autograph right there.
Oh, awesome.
That's awesome.
Great.
Thank you, guys. Sorry about all the going back and forth between.
No, it was fun.
It added a little extra to the show. It was awesome, and you were great, Earl. It was great stories, and check Earl out. YouTube, Twitter, all those places. Check out the shows. Lex, love Lex.
That's great.
Thanks so much, Earl.
Yeah, and any girls who listen, you want to DM me, that's fine.
Any of the hot girls that are in the crowd, Earl, you can slide into his DMs.
I think Ari Jane is first in line. She was
Ari Jane. She's a muscular gal too. She might be fun to slide in DMs with.
And unfortunately, guys, my DMs are set that only females can DM me. Sorry about that.
Awesome.
It's a hidden feature on my social media. But thank you, guys.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Good night.
Good night, guys.